So let's begin by introducing ourselves and then we'll go from there. My name is Tess Cootie Anders. I'm the Vice President for Strategic Communications, and I'm working this summer with lots and lots of folks on the reopening of our campus for the fall. And joining me this evening are other university leaders who are also in those roles in their respective areas. So I'm going to start with just what I see across my screen. So Courtney, if you don't mind going first, and then we'll move to Valerie and Jamie from there.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Cunningham, and I am spending the summer and into the fall working closely with Tess in the Nerve Center. So I'm very happy to be here and to be answering questions all over the place as well. So looking forward to managing the Q&A panel tonight.
Yeah, we're going to ask you guys, if you would, you're welcome to chat us, but if you have questions, put those in the Q&A. And we're going to start with frequently asked questions about City Vista. And if we don't hit your question in that, then you can start firing away on City Vista. And then we'll move to questions, frequently asked questions about for students who are living in the San Antonio area. So Valerie, you want to go next?
Everyone, Valerie Schweers, Director of Operations and Enrollment Management, and also just a little tidbit, a parent of a Trinity alum.
Yeah. Hey, Jamie, how about you?
Jamie Thompson. I serve as the Assistant Dean of Students and Director of Student Involvement and wear the hat of a Trinity alum.
Dr. Soto?
Hi all, I'm Michael Soto. I am Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs and an English professor.
Dean Tuttle.
Hi, I'm David Tuttle. I'm the Dean of Students and happy to welcome our returning students. And I know we probably have some parents out there as well, so welcome to all of you.
And Eric.
Hi, Eric Maloof, Vice President for Enrollment Management.
Well, thank you all so much, and thank you to all of our students for joining us this evening. So as we mentioned, we're going to start with City Vista and maybe move through some of the most frequently asked questions we've received over the last few days. So I'll kick it off, and then Jamie and Dean Tuttle, as we have, as you guys want to add in, please just jump in there, and then we'll, if you all have questions related to City Vista, start with those, and we'll move through the Q&A and then shift to our students who are living in the Bexar County area. So first of all, we've had lots of questions about City Vista and whether or not students who live in City Vista would have to move out if the university were to experience a situation where we needed to return to a shelter in place, where we needed to close campus. And the answer is a non-answer. The answer is it all depends, right, Dean Tuttle? It depends on the situation which might precipitate a closure. And in some cases, it may not be necessary, but if the closure involves situation at City Vista, then that would force us to move folks out of that complex. David, anything you would want to redirect there or add?
No, not really. I mean, there are so many variables at play. Let's say that we have a number of cases, positive cases in City Vista, and that starts the dominoes going, right? So we can't anticipate what the circumstances will be on campus. We can't anticipate what they'll be in the city. We don't know what the timing will be in the semester. And so we just can't, with any confidence, say what will happen with that.
Pack light is all we say, right? Do your best to be nimble this semester.
David and Tess, could I clarify that, because I'm hearing that question a lot too? Is there a scenario potentially that we could empty campus and keep City Vista full?
I mean, there could be a scenario where students who are in City Vista would be able to remain, understanding that if the rest of campus is closed, then those campus services would not be available to students in City Vista. And so what I tend to always say is, in this situation, if something rises to a top level of concern for you in making a decision, I would always err on the side of caution in our planning, because if you plan for the worst and hope for the best, you're less likely to be disappointed. Is kind of the way I've been answering that. Another question that's come up quite a bit is, if my roommate decides not to come back and I live in City Vista, can I or will you add another roommate? And the answer is no. We're trying to, not add more bodies to City Vista. And no, you will not be charged for you know, a single or a higher level of expense for that room if in fact a student leaves, a roommate leaves, and you're there alone. So no to both of those. No new roommate, no additional charge for that. It's the same on campus as well. If we're living in a single where you're being charged for a double. So that's consistent across the board. And then we've had lots of questions about quarantine and isolation in City Vista, how that would work. This is another it depends situation, but I'll describe it this way. Quarantine, to define it, is what happens when individuals are awaiting test results. So they are persons under investigation. They're suspected potentially to have COVID, and there's testing going on, and we're waiting for the testing. So in that situation, it is not likely that you would be moved from your room, even if you have a roommate across the way. Chances are your roommate may end up being testing too. It just depends on the nature of your exposure that precipitated your testing. However, if one member of the suite is positive for COVID and the other is not, then the individual who is positive would need to isolate alone. And so there are some spaces in City Vista that are being set aside to ensure that we can accommodate students who are positive for COVID and need to isolate. I will tell you that our preference would be for students who become ill. You know, the best thing for you to do is go home if you possibly can, but we understand that that's not feasible it's not feasible or possible for everyone. And that's why we're making sure we have some capacity and capability to both test, contact trace, and treat at City Vista, and happy to go into more detail on that. But that is a frequently asked question that we get. Another question we get quite a bit is, when will I move into City Vista? Kind of what does that look like? And will I have to undergo the mass testing, the upfront testing that others on campus are involved in? And so, yes, you will undergo mass testing. Everybody does who's coming onto campus and moving back in. And the move-in dates for City Vista for testing are slated right now. And Jamie, make sure I've got this right. We just kind of confirmed this today. August 15th and 16th is when we're expecting to have students start their move-in. The bulk of students move into City Vista. You'll get messaging about separating between those 2 days, because we don't want to, you know, we have two elevators and really trying not to have too many people crowd in the space, because we want to physically distance. And that also gives us the ability to move you through testing efficiently for COVID. Do I have that right, Jamie? Anything we want to change on that?
No, we do, yes, I will. You've got it correct. And I'll add that we do recognize that there may be a bit of trickle in City Vista, that not everyone will move in on the 15th and 16th, though the majority of you will, and we will accommodate that. And you'll receive more information from Residential Life. But there will be a way for you to be tested if you arrive, let's say, on the 17th. If you indicate to Residential Life that you're unable to arrive on the 15th or 16th, there will be accommodations made for testing on the 17th.
And on the 15th and 16th, we'll kind of ask you to arrive at a time frame, so that we don't kind of have everybody show up at one time and, create an unsafe and less physically distant environment, and help us move through testing more quickly. So there'll be more coming on that move in from Res Life. So watch out for that. Any other frequently asked questions, Jamie or Dean Tuttle? Otherwise, we can go to the Q&A and kind of start working through those. Or Eric, anything you'd want to add to that? Okay. So let's see. The first question is, are there any plans for special accommodations or exceptions for graduate students probably wanting to live in City Vista? Dean Tuttle, do you want to talk about the exceptions process? I think we've got you on mute. Sorry, do I need to unmute you?
Yeah, can you restate the question?
So the question is, the question was, are there any accommodations or exceptions for graduate students for living on campus, or in City Vista specifically, I believe?
If you're a graduate student and you're not currently assigned there, then there is not an exception. It would only be if you're already there. Got it, okay.
Will there be kind of a curfew, or what time will on-campus activities close once you move into City Vista? You know, so right now we're working on building hours for buildings across campus. but there won't be a curfew per se. The idea is that what we're doing is trying to maintain social distancing, physical distancing, managing the ingress and egress to buildings. And it's not so much about the hours. You will be asked to sign something called the Protect TU Health Pledge. And so obviously, you're going to be encouraged to make good choices at all times of day, but we're not going to impose a curfew on anybody at this point. There's a question about if you are positive for coronavirus, will you receive medical care, food, etc.? So as it relates to City Vista, and specifically to lower campus, living on campus and in City Vista, we will help manage the testing and the treatment for students that become positive and can't return home and need to isolate on campus. And that includes making sure you get all of your needs for daily living met, and those will be managed by or provided by the university. So there will be medical care. We've doubled the size of our health services team and added an additional physician and nurses and contact tracers in an effort to build up the kind of capacity and capability to manage the presence of the virus on our campus. One of the triggers for us is if we think that the presence of the virus in our community and project or watch it get to a place on our campus that exceeds our capabilities, that's when we would need to make a decision to adjust access and our presence on campus. But we are planning to be able to provide those services. Dean Tuttle?
Yeah, Tess, I think for our students, I don't know that, I think we will encourage those students who are within driving distance to go, if they test positive, to be at home where they can get better support and care than they can probably get on campus. That's right. Given our somewhat limited resources. And so that would probably be something we would ask. And I think most students and families would want anyways, but we understand there's sometimes difficult circumstances or people are too far away.
Yeah, that's right. So it would be our preference to go home. But if you can't, we are managing for that in our processes. So let's see, I'm trying to start from the bottom because that's when, where we started. Okay. If I'm taking an in-person only class and then I'm not allowed back on campus, what happens for my class? Gotcha. That's a great question. So if for some reason we had to make a decision that either off-campus students, and I'm not talking about City Vista, but off-campus students or all students for that matter, needed to go to move to remote learning, and you were in the middle of taking an in-person only class, Dr. Soto, I'll let you jump in here, but the discussion in the past has been that obviously, just as in the spring, we'll make the necessary pivots. If it's not your choice, it's our choice, that those adjustments will be made. Dr. Soto, do you want to amend that in any way, or?
I would just add that all of the departments that have selected some of their courses for hands-on instruction, they've been asked to develop contingency plans for exactly that scenario. And to the extent possible, to deliver all of those learning components that require the hands-on in-person presence, we've asked them to push those up to the front of the semester as much as possible in anticipation of uncertainty, really. That's
right. All right, that sounds good. I'm looking for City Vista questions specifically before we go on to some of the more general ones. If I'm forced to leave my City Vista apartment due to the school closing, will I need to remove any furniture that I've brought in as I leave? Jamie, do you want to kind of just address City Vista students being able to leave what they bring in kind of storage in City Vista? I'll be honest, I don't recall what happened in the spring.
I'm gonna.
Are we gonna punt?
I'm gonna punt to David. Do you know in total?
Yeah. So we're asking people to move in with as few items as possible because we don't know. I think the hope is that there will be some continuity for the people in City Vista from fall to spring, but again, we can't guarantee that. And so if we can ensure that, then people might be able to leave things behind, right? We may have to, let's say for some reason everything gets better in the spring. I mean, basically Res Life is going to kind of hit go back to factory reset settings and then reassign everybody again from main campus. They're all being asked to take all their stuff home. And so if we can put people in doubles, if we have to get some seniors on campus for specific reasons, there could be any number of scenarios. How that affects City Vista, we're not sure. We really want to respect that people are there, and if we can, that they want to be there. It's a different environment, and we would like there to be continuity. We just can't say for sure. So just remember, everything you bring, you might have to take with you in a hurry. And I think they're pretty furnished, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, that's good advice. So there's questions about visitors to City Vista for both move-in and ongoing. So our policy for lower campus move-in, our approach is that you can bring, that one person can help you with move-in. I think that remains consistent with City Vista. So it would be one person that can help you. If you have two parents that want to come and they want to trade off, that's fine, but it's again about limiting the number of bodies that we have moving in. And the question as to guests at your City Vista apartment, just as with lower campus, we're really restricting guest access to campus, thinking of City Vista as campus, right? You can meet people off campus outside of City Vista, but other than, other students that live in City Vista or that you frequently interact with in City Vista, we would encourage you not to have visitors come to your room. And that's whether you're on lower campus or in City Vista. Remembering that this is just a really altered environment, and this remains, it continues to look a lot like what you're probably doing at home right now, where you have very limited interaction with people other than your family or individuals we might call your quarantine, right? You have the same patterns and the same exposures every day, and you're not expanding that circle because you know what each other's patterns are and your activities are, and you know that you're protected. So I know that stinks, but it's definitely not business as usual when you return to campus, including to City Vista in that way. There's some other general questions, and it's starting to move into questions for Bexar County. There was a question about move-in, just to repeat it again in case you missed it and came in a little bit late. All of these dates will be on the COVID-19 website, but most folks should move into City Vista on the 15th and 16th of August, but we know there'll be some stragglers from there, and you can coordinate that with residential life if you can't come on the days that they offer you, the days and times that they ask you to move in. And the reason why we're a little bit more prescriptive this year is we have to complete a lot of things when you move in, including mass testing. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
You can expect, sorry, Tess, to jump in.
Go ahead, please.
I think our City Vista students should expect an email before the end of this week from Residential Life that will explain those details and give you an opportunity to explain when or how, like, those options and time slots are. So watch for that soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking for more, will the City Vista gym or pool be open? That's a great question. To be honest, I know that we've been going, we've kind of been talking to the epidemiologists and the public health experts about that, and I don't know that a determination has been made as of yet. The latest thinking that I heard was that, again, things would have to be really socially distanced and roped off, and so there would be limits on occupancy for those sorts of things, but I'm not sure they'd be completely closed. I imagine they'll watch for utilization and adherence to the guidelines, and if at some point they felt like it was becoming unsafe, then you would see those things close, I imagine. So again, a lot of this all comes down to the choices that we make, how much time we have together, how open the campus is, and how many services are available to us. So we'll work through that together. It's not just your responsibility, it's all of our responsibility. And that's why it's going to be, kind of part of this Protect TU Health Pledge that we'll all be asked to take, faculty, staff, and students. Let's see, I guess we can transition to some of the Bexar County questions. I do want to just reiterate. Yes. Go ahead, David.
I just want to answer two questions I saw quickly on the chat. One was about somebody whose roommate left items in City Vista and is supposed to come and get them this weekend. I would email Stephanie Ackerman or just Res Life at Trinity. I'm not aware that people had left stuff, so they may have been doing somebody a solid on that one. And so I would just double check directly with Res Life. The other question that caught my eye was about if we're sending somebody who tests positive home, aren't we endangering the people at home if we ask them to go home if they have COVID? And so, you know, we again, it would kind of depend, right? We don't want to send somebody to a place where there's a vulnerable population in the home. You know, I think our feeling is that people are quarantining at homes all the time right now, right? And so that whether it's an isolated bedroom and bathroom or things like that, some people may not have that much space in their homes. But we also have to worry about whether or not they would infect population at Trinity too, or people who are trying to offer the services. And again, those will be somewhat limited. So we're not trying to dump people onto unsuspecting family members. And we would encourage people to go home, but I don't know that we're at a point where we would require it. And if we have to, then we will.
Yeah, just to reiterate, if it is not feasible, and feasible means it's not feasible to travel, or it's not advisable because you have a vulnerable population at home, then we would make those adjustments. In an optimal situation, the best place for you is with family and the physicians and other people that know you, and that's the best way to proceed. But it's not going to be right for every situation, and that's why we're planning for those capabilities. So lots of questions are being asked about testing and students who are living in San Antonio but learning on campus. So let's kind of just address that process first, and then we'll see if we catch most questions, and otherwise we'll move back through the Q&A. So as it stands right now, if you are living in Bexar County or the contiguous counties, you can come onto campus and learn for the day. And because of that, because you are going to continue to be a daily member of campus, you will be asked to participate in the same health pledge and training and testing and daily symptom checking that all students are going to be involved in who live on campus. So let me describe what each of those are. First, when you will be asked to kind of declare yourself. Sometime next week, we're going to initiate a process where we say, hey, tell us that you're living in Bexar County or contiguously, what your address is, and that you intend to learn on campus. When do you intend to start doing that? We just need to establish contact and a line of communication so that we can then schedule you for a day and a time to come along with other area students to do your testing. And the testing will be a PCR nasal swab test. That's what we're using for our upfront testing. You will also be given links and information about how to complete a couple things. One is the Protect to You Health Pledge. The other is some training on our Safe Colleges modules around COVID itself. There'll be a risk acknowledgement form that you will be provided. And then you'll be given instructions about how to access a tool that is a daily symptom checker. And what that is it'll be a text exchange that you'll have, like a conversation, like a chat bot on your phone every morning. And it'll just ask you some basic questions about symptoms, how you're feeling, have you been exposed to anything? And depending on your answers, you'll get a green badge or a red badge. And if you have a green badge, you can proceed safely to campus. And if you have a red badge, you'll be prompted to make a phone call to the COVID-19 health team. So all those tools are sort of function as walls to help prevent the spread of the virus. The testing will take place on campus. As I said, we'll assign you a day, and then within 24 to 48 hours, we'll return the results to you. And if they're positive, you'll get a phone call. If they're not positive, no harm, no foul, and you'll continue on. So we'll definitely let you know where you end up. If for some reason you were positive, then we would go to our isolation protocols at the beginning of campus. From there, testing will proceed as follows. We'll do what's called surveillance testing, and you'll get more details on this, but basically it's where we random test, solicit testing, or ask for testing around from a random sampling of the population that's coming onto campus every day. So we can mine for and watch for the presence of the virus on the campus. And then in addition, there will be on-demand testing. So you've had an exposure, or you're not feeling well, or you fail that symptom checker. And when you call the health services team, they say, you know, you should be tested. And so, as I mentioned before, we've doubled the size of health services and added contact tracers and healthcare providers who would manage both your testing and the subsequent treating for that. The contact tracers would get involved if you become positive. Then they're going to ask you some questions. You know, who'd you have lunch with yesterday? You know, where'd you go? Who'd you hang out with? Were you in all your classes? So that they can begin to assess who might have been most exposed. These are very confidential conversations. They're not being shared widely. And anyone that they might contact who's had exposure to you, they're not going to call and say, well, Tess has COVID. They're simply going to call and say, we think you may have had an exposure to COVID, and we want to talk you through that. So, you know, that's a process that we're all going to be asked to participate in, so that we can keep campus open for as long as possible. Any questions about that, please put that in the Q&A. Is there anything anybody on the panel wants to add that I missed on kind of the process for testing, tracing, and treating?
There was one question in the Q&A. If somebody tests positive, goes home, and then they test negative, can they come back?
Yeah, they can come back, sure. If you go home for isolate and you get better, and you're feeling up to it, and there's enough of the semester left, you know, all the things that you'll want to process for yourself. But absolutely, when you're better, we want you to come back, right? If you're feeling well, and you can do that.
There's also a question about will there be a charge for testing?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a great question. No, there's no charge for our upfront mass testing. We are exploring the possibility that for on-demand testing, so you should have an exposure, we could bill insurance for that, for those tests. But Trinity's paying for the mass testing for every single person that needs a test. So you won't be charged for that. We will not incorporate temperature checks or smell checks on campus. There are too many points of entry to campus to do a temperature check everywhere, but you will be asked on that symptom checker that you'll complete in the morning if you have a fever. So one thing you should have and bring with you to campus is a thermometer. That's an important part of your back to school supplies, definitely, is having a thermometer. Let's see. No charge for the swab tests. There have been questions in the past. So where will you get tested? So if you get a red badge, like, as I said, we've set up health services on campus with this new COVID health team. And so you will either be advised to come to them, or more likely they will come to you. The way that team is operationalizing it is they don't want you walking through campus. Even if you live in City Vista, their plan right now is to come to you where you are and conduct that testing. Let's see. What happened? Go ahead.
There's a question about dining services. And so City Vista and off-campus students are welcome to have a meal plan or a commuter plan, or put money on Tiger Bucks. Maybe it will be open. The Commons will be open. The question specifically asked about Revolve. Not only will it be open, but we have renovated the Commons that will be pushed into the southeast corner. And so there won't be any furniture in there. It will only be to go in the Commons. And we have a lot of space to queue people up in a socially distant manner, as long as they're wearing masks. And so Starbucks pods, Steak and Shake, all those things will be open. We were exploring an online app that didn't look like it was going to pan out. Doesn't look like it's going to pan out, but everything will be to go. We'll have some tables outside on the Esplanade area or near the chapel, hopefully in shade where people can get their food and go out and eat. We'll have food trucks, hopefully on upper campus as well.
Perfect.
Can I ask a clarifying question about something you said last about the testing? Was that health services will come to you? Is that in the instance where there's a potential exposure, or is that what you're anticipating for the
So if you have an on-demand test because you believe you've had an exposure or you're symptomatic, then the idea right now, and this could change, but the idea right now is that the COVID testing team would come to you so that you're not walking across campus or traveling through campus to come to health services. There might be instances and situations where that's more appropriate, but in the main, generally speaking, their plan is to dispatch the testing team to the person who's symptomatic or feels they've had or has been assessed to have a significant enough exposure that they should be tested. Does that make sense, Jamie?
It does. So for City Vista students and students living locally, where can they expect to participate in that mass testing that you've described?
In Laurie Auditorium. So the plan in August is, and you'll get all these details over the next week, but all the mass testing will take place in and around the roundabout in Laurie Auditorium. So you'll park in the open air parking outside of Laurie. You'll come in through the doors there. There'll be directional signage and volunteers to direct you. And most importantly, you're going to be asked to come during a window of time because we can only test so many people at a time to keep our threshold of individuals in an indoor space at our maximum capacity. So I want to clarify though, if you live off campus in an apartment somewhere else, the COVID health service testing team is not coming to you for that testing. You then would come onto campus for that testing. But for City Vista and what we consider on campus, the COVID team would come to you. But the testing is available to students living off campus for one very important reason. Right now, we believe we can control our testing turnaround times through some contractual relationships. Those could slip if the city really pushes on them to take on the overflow. But we really need our faculty, staff, and students to get those tests back in 24 to 48 hours, as you can imagine. So for that reason, even our Bexar County and contiguous county students will be allowed to get those tests on campus. Let's see. I'm looking for any questions else about testing, and you guys see something else you want to talk about, go for it. Or to do with healthcare. So we can get those knocked out of the way. If you're positive off campus, if you live off campus and you become positive for coronavirus, for COVID, we will provide you with information and resources, but those living off campus are living independently, and health services will not provide direct treatment for you. You will need to arrange for your own care for those living off campus. It's just not possible for them to operationalize that for everybody. Of course, we're going to provide you with contacts to resources, make sure that you have contacts to, being able to be fed. We're not going to leave somebody without food, but generally speaking, that will not be part of the treatment workflows or protocols that health services has. Those are really focused on City Vista and with the students living on lower campus. So please factor that into your decision. For those of you who've not signed a lease, please think about, how you really are independently living in San Antonio in this situation. There was a question about whether off-campus students might at some point be asked not to come onto campus. That is true. If the situation deteriorates such to the point that we feel our ability, our capacity and capabilities will be outstripped by the presence of the virus in San Antonio or on campus, it is possible, in the spirit of full transparency, that off-campus Bexar County and contiguous county students could be restricted from coming onto campus and would be asked to learn entirely remotely, and all the adjustments in their classes would be made accordingly. So in the spirit of full transparency, I would want to know that, especially if I'm still working to sign a lease arrangement. It's not what we're planning for at all. Well, let me say it this way. It's not what we're expecting, but it's something we might have to plan for, and you should as well. So in the spirit of that, just want to make sure you're aware. The deadline, let's talk about the deadline for City Vista, because it's come up in the Q&A. 11:59 tonight is the deadline to let us know. Is that right? If you have an exceptional or an extenuating circumstance, I'm sure you can email ResLife, but generally speaking, they really need to know that so that they can finalize, for example, where all our isolation and quarantine rooms are. It's a really critical piece of the puzzle. So if you can, please let us know before midnight tonight.
Let me just mention, as people are looking here, so some of the questions are being answered in the chat, and then they're going from the column of open questions to answered. And so if you haven't gotten your question answered, you may, as a participant, you may want to look on the answered questions and see.
Okay. There was a question about what happens if a professor or staff member gets COVID. So yeah, it's a great question, and all the departments, and Dr. Soto can address this, but faculty are making those contingency plans, and we're all going to roll with it. We're all going to do, they're going to account for and manage for you if you're sick, and we'll do the same for our faculty. We're just going to have to be really flexible with each other this semester. Allergies. This has come up a lot. When you do your symptom checker, the question about allergies is contemplated in your daily symptom checker. It says something like, do you have, you know, a runny nose or drainage that's not associated with seasonal allergies? So there are some specific questions that delineate between and differentiate between illness and allergies. The symptom text is not pushed to you. It's something you bookmark and you engage in. So it's not going to wake you up at 6 a.m. It's just something you need to do before you come to campus each day. Let's see. There are lots of questions about if you live off campus, what buildings or services can you access? Jamie, David, do you guys want to address that, or you want me to? Just Bell Center, dining services. You hit dining services already, David.
Let me throw it over to Jamie. I think she'll answer that.
I don't know that I have much more to offer. So you've already referenced that building hours are still in flux. Those determinations haven't been made. And so as I think about campus life, student organizations, use of Coates Student Center specifically, we don't know those building hours. Class assignment space has yet to be finalized, and Coates meeting rooms, including Fiesta Room and Waxahachie, are being considered for really important class space because they're a little bit larger and allow for physical distancing of in-person classes. So there's a couple other things, dominoes, that need to fall before we can understand Coates Student Center specifically and the use and the availability for students. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, I think that does, Jamie. And then there are questions about, can you use the pools, the tennis courts, the Bell Center? And the answer is we intend you to, yes. They'll be physically distanced and there'll be maximum occupancies and some use guidelines. But yes, both cities.
Yeah, I don't know about like the basketball courts. I don't know if that's been decided yet, but the fitness center, I think the plan is to have that open if the city allows it, and there'll just be a limited number of people in there. I think offices that feel like that they can be open and offer face-to-face services will try to do that. I think most of the counseling services will happen over Zoom. Eric, I don't know if financial aid will have people be able to walk in or not, or if that's all online.
They will have people during that time. We will be open.
Yeah, and so we will, you know, we definitely want to have all of our services available. The delivery method may vary from office to office.
Great. I was just answering a couple of those in the chat so that you can, or the Q&A, so you can see them there. Let's see. So Eric, there's a question that comes up pretty frequently. Let's address it with City Vista. If I accept my housing assignment, I come to campus, I come to City Vista, and then I decide I've changed my mind and I want to learn remotely and live at home. Do you want to address the process for housing related?
Sure. Yeah, and it is different for City Vista than it is on main campus. So we got kind of two answers here. For City Vista, just know that if things go in our favor, right, in your favor, and we end up, you end up staying for the entire semester, which is what we're all hopeful for. You can stay the whole semester through November, through Thanksgiving, all the way through the break. As it relates to if you change your mind, we do have strict deadlines. We will adhere. Those deadlines are the main deadline you want to be thinking about, I believe, is September 2nd. Tess, you might have that in your notes.
Yes,
September 2nd is the end of ad drop. That is the day that if you will receive 100% refund on tuition and 100% refund on room and board, less the nights you've stayed and meals you've eaten up until that point. So that is the day you really want to be thinking about. I see a lot of questions in there about just about if you change your mind, or can I start online and then come to campus? The answer to that is no. But be thinking about September 2nd as a date that is sort of salient and should be on your mind on if this is where you want to be for the semester to get a full refund.
Makes sense.
That help?
And that's right. And what if I decided to withdraw temporarily? I've taken it a step further, and it's not just to go home to learn remotely, but I decide to take a temporary withdrawal. When is the last time you want to talk about the September 2nd deadline for that and add drop?
Yeah, and David and Michael may be able to answer that more, but as it relates to refunds and that it is basically the same. I will say that if it's COVID related, our tuition refund plan, I know we have a high percentage for our students who purchase that. That does cover COVID. So if something were to happen and you were to go home and end up withdrawing medically, then that would be covered.
Thank you. And Michael, do you want to talk about add drop? There've been a lot of questions about when is it? Has it been extended? Maybe just address that question.
Sure. Add drop has been extended slightly because we're moving the start of the semester a day earlier. The deadline for add drop is September 2nd, as has already been mentioned. The withdrawal deadline has also been extended somewhat further into the semester.
Perfect.
And can I test really quickly, in between September 2nd and September 10th, if somebody were to withdraw within there, you're getting 50%. There's a 50%, and then September 10th ends up being the kind of drop dead deadline where there is no refund. So on tuition. So
can I just clarify a little bit more, because withdrawal can mean different things at different points, right? So if somebody decides to go home before September 2nd, then the refund would, and still do remote classes, then the refund would be, as Eric explained, prorated based on nights and money used on the meal plan. If somebody wants to withdraw from school, temporary withdrawal before September 2nd, then they would do the withdrawal form. And then that would trigger the withdrawal with the appropriate refunds, as Eric mentioned. And then after that time, a student who withdraws from Trinity, a temporary withdrawal, hopefully not a complete withdrawal, would then process that as that is normally processed, and would stop taking classes. And so, but there wouldn't be 100% refund, and that's where the tuition insurance comes in.
Perfect. Thank you. Answering a few questions here for you where we can. Is the spring semester going to be entirely online as well, or we will be given the same option to live in City Vista? Who knows what the spring will hold? We're planning, as David mentioned earlier, for, kind of coming back to normal. I think you called it hitting the reset button. I really hope we're able to do that. But we'll just have to keep you posted on how the spring will look. Residential Life has let everybody know that they can't guarantee the same room assignments on Lower Campus or City Vista for the spring. Now, if you're an off-campus student who's chosen to live off-campus in an apartment and you're a sophomore or a junior, and we're all coming back in the spring, you may still continue to live in your apartment off-campus because the university has waived the residency requirement for this year only to accommodate that situation. So you don't have to worry so much about that. There have been some questions about kind of sanitization processes, if you want us to address that kind of everywhere. Obviously, we're up in our game for COVID cleaning with environmental services on campus and in City Vista. Obviously, off campus, that's up to you. But when you are on campus, you will be part of the cleaning and disinfection team, in the sense that before you leave a class or a facility, you'll have supplies made available to you to kind of clean up your spot. Right, so we're going to layer the levels of cleaning and disinfection so that even as environmental services comes along behind you and cleans for COVID, you guys have cleaned in between. So throughout the day, you will be the cleaning crew in a classroom, and then overnight, everything gets a deep COVID cleaning and is reset for the academic day the next day. In City Vista, is it the same schedule, Jamie, as it is for Lower Campus? Do you know for cleaning there? I'm not even sure.
I'm unsure.
Yeah, we'll have to get back to you on that. I'll make it one of the FAQs on the frequency. It should be the same as on campus, but we'll definitely check on that. There's no distance perimeter on eligibility for on-campus instruction. We're just basically saying if you live contiguous to the campus. So what that means to Bexar County or contiguous counties, if you live in Houston and you want to drive in for one class, that's not advisable. That's not something we're looking for you to do. But if you live in, Comal County, up near Bandera or something, and you don't mind the trek down I-10 or 281, then yes, you can learn on campus. It's basically Bexar County or the contiguous counties is what we're intending there.
Tess, these are great questions. Can you that the students and families are asking? There was one about mattresses. I imagine we would disinfect those. I think most of those have have the kind of surface that we could disinfect between semesters. And then the other question, and just to clarify, do City Vista students have to go home after November 22nd?
Yeah, so the idea is, so last year you guys were allowed to stay through the holiday. Just know that we won't have services on campus. The whole idea of going online and remote is you would then learn online and remote and you would not come onto campus. So even if you stay in your City Vista apartment over Thanksgiving and the holiday break, you won't be able to come onto campus for anything. That's part of our COVID mitigation strategy, is when we're anticipating a big second wave, which who knows, but that's with the projections, that we're really reducing presence on campus. So you'd be on your own in City Vista if you decide to stay, and you would be taking classes, finishing up remotely like every other student. And same for those students living off campus, there'd be no coming onto campus during that time frame. I've seen some questions about the health pledge and how we're going to enforce it. So Jamie, do you first want to talk about how we've created a policy and it's part of our student code of conduct? We have a healthy behaviors policy. If you want, I can talk about it, but I just wanted to offer that up if you wanted to.
Sure. Correct me where I'm wrong, or
Okay.
recenter me. Everything that Tess and all of our other institutional partners have been saying from the beginning is that this only works when we all do it, right? So I just want to underscore, like, this premise of taking the pledge is we're doing this for everyone, for the safety and health and wellness of everyone. And so that extends on campus and it extends off campus. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So, and I'll speak kind of from that student involvement socialization piece, which is that students have said, do we have to live by the pledge, if you will, when we're off campus at a friend's house? And the response is, we would encourage you to do so. We would encourage you to physical distance. We would encourage you to wear masks in settings that are unsafe for you to be, in close proximity to each other. Those are the same things that, I'll use myself as an example. As a resident of San Antonio, right? I'm basically not leaving my house, but if I'm near other people, right? If I'm going to HEB, well, I must wear my mask at HEB. But those are the things that we're all doing as a member of this, not just Trinity community, but San Antonio community. So it is in our best interest if we all encourage each other to abide by those things on and off campus. Dean Tuttle, will you talk a little bit about mechanisms for reporting egregious violations?
Yeah, yes. And so, and just to add a little bit more to that, I would think of the pledge kind of like the honor code. Not everybody follows it, but then there can be consequences to it, right? But it's kind of a social contract. So I would look at it that way. I would look at our policies on masking and social distancing, similar to our smoking policy. Nobody wants to have to be the ones to enforce these things directly, but just like you would ask somebody to put out their cigarette or go off campus to smoke, students and employees may want to say to people, I'd appreciate if you wear your mask or whatever. If somebody's a chronic persistent offender, then the Dean of Students webpage has a reporting mechanism for people to report, either anonymous or not, somebody who's not somebody who's a chronic violator, and then we would look into that situation with that student. And in some ways, we would treat it like we do the Safer Party Initiative, call the student in, see what's going on, and try to resolve it that way.
Dr. Soto, would you want to add what the pledge looks like in the classroom and expectations in the classroom with faculty?
Sure. Faculty are able, if a student is not adhering to the required health protocols and following the pledge, faculty are able to follow what we call a disruption of class policy. That allows the instructor to give the student one warning, and if the student doesn't conform after that warning, the instructor can then remove the student from the class roster and they are dropped from the class. And if this occurs after the withdrawal deadline, the student would be given an F grade for that class.
So it's part of the academic honor code, and it's considered a disruption to class if you don't follow the guidelines for physical distancing and wearing a face covering. And in limited situations, a face covering can mean a face shield, but there have been lots of questions about, are there health conditions that I could submit a request for an exemption to wearing a face covering? And the answer is that there's no evidence base that we can find from the CDC or any other, work with our epidemiologists or any other health providers that would indicate the need for an exemption for a face covering. But we do acknowledge that in some cases, a face shield may be better for some students, and there'll be a process for helping you identify that. We would say though, that if you're really thinking about a particular health condition you have that might necessitate or you feel makes wearing a mask difficult, that you probably need to kind of fall back and rethink coming to campus altogether. Please explore the CDC website. We'll have this information on the COVID website, sort of what the high-risk categories are for COVID. And just know that we welcome you learning remotely and creating a wonderful and robust experience for you if you think you might be at high risk for illness due to COVID. Your age group, for the students on the call, are not always getting very, very sick, but it can happen. And this disease has long-lasting implications beyond just potentially a few days of feeling badly. And you just don't ever know how that's going to affect you. So if you know you have an underlying condition, we just encourage you to talk to your physician about that and take those conversations really seriously. This is something we're taking very seriously. And our ability to open is absolutely linked, and to stay open, to our ability to feel that we can test, trace, and treat students effectively. And that begins with you guys helping us make good decisions about who's best suited to learn and live in a high-risk environment. And that's what it is. It's a high-risk environment. So we're just trying to be transparent with you guys about that. Let's see if there are other questions we've missed, guys, that y'all are seeing in the Q&A or the chat. Courtney, anything you want to?
Yeah, there was one I saw that was kind of about, is what students submit tonight binding? Mm-hmm. And if you could address that.
So to repeat that again, what Eric said, you can accept tonight. You get here and you decide, you know what, I want to go home and learn remotely. Then, you can bug out by September 2nd and get a full refund, prorated refund rather, for your room and board. Meaning the nights and days you were here would be charged to you, and the rest of the semester would come to you in a prorated refund. If you decided to go further and temporarily withdraw, there are a couple of processes that Dean Tuttle and Dr. Soto mentioned. But again, the same general deadline applies in terms of a tuition refund, that if you did so by September 2nd, there would be a full refund unless it's COVID related. The insurance plan kicks in there, and it decreases in amount by subsequent dates after that.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think maybe I'm reading between the lines or reading the questions incorrectly, but basically, if it's to your advantage, you can undo what you've done, right? Yes. So if you say, I want to live on campus, and then you decide next week, you know what, I'm out, right? Then you're not bound by what you said before midnight tonight, right?
David, I agree. If you are waffling as a student, if you are waffling right now and you're 60% sure you want to reserve a room on campus, as Dean Tuttle mentioned, you can undo this. So without penalty.
Up to a point.
Up to a point, right. But if it's next week,
I just want to be clear about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to be really clear about that. That's up to a point.
Yeah,
You
up to a
cannot keep
point.
that up till September 2nd, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, and then the reverse is true, as is important to bring up too. I've seen a question about, well, what if I decide to start online and then I want to come back in October? Can I do that? And the answer, unfortunately, though, is no, because at that point we've committed rooms to people who've already accepted and have decided to stay. So the best hope would be that then for the spring, you're feeling better, the world is a better place, and we're, you know, if you were guaranteed a room assignment in the fall, then you'd have an opportunity to come back onto campus in the spring. Just can't guarantee it'd be the same one that you originally thought you'd be in when you opted out for the fall.
And then likewise tests for the learning mode for your Dr. Soto. If you said, I'm going to do it this way, and then you want to switch to the other thing, is that binding?
No, in terms of if you said, no, I want to learn on campus, but now I've made the decision to learn remotely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you
Right.
you can absolutely do that, right? Right.
Yeah, all classes that are designated online only or TigerFlex, which is 95% of the courses we're offering this fall, will be available to students remotely.
You may choose to live at home in San Antonio and decide, I don't, you know, for various reasons, personal reasons, I'm not getting out and about, and I want to take all my classes remotely. That's fine. You can absolutely do that. There might be a few in-person classes that would not be available to you, but as Dr. Soto said, the vast majority should be available to you.
And then to answer Nicholas's question in the chat, as if you want to do classes remotely and you're living off campus and you don't want to get here till mid-September, that's fine. You just have to make sure you get tested before you come onto campus.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention a really important point. How will we know that you got tested? How will somebody see you on campus or allow you into? Your Tiger card will not become active until you've completed all those things I mentioned, the forms and the testing. After those things are completed, then your Tiger card will be active. So if you're an off-campus a student who's learning on campus, until you've gone through all of that, your card won't work. And the same will be true for City Vista and lower campus residents as well. So that's.
I've seen about 3 or 4 questions on parking, and I just want to let people know.
Yeah, you're the parking guru.
So parking will be $75. There's no for the entire year. It's a one-time purchase, and if you want free parking, if you don't want to buy a parking pass and you want to come to campus, you can either leave it in City Vista, or you can park in Alamo Stadium, which is free. But if you want parking for the year, it's $75. Again, there's no increase year over year. So
we only have a couple, I mean, we can stay on a little longer, but you know, coming to the end, and I see 2 or 3 questions of a theme we haven't answered, but Dean Tuttle, there's something you want to bring up?
Yeah, just kind of lightning round stuff. The 2 questions, once we talked about forms, right? One is, what's the name of the form we have to fill out by tonight? Isn't there a form other than student plans and needs form? So that's one question. And somebody's saying, let's see, how do you indicate that you're studying online versus off campus and commuting? So I think if one of you wants to address that form. And then there was another question about meal plans. Meal plans are the same as they always are. Pick less. Less is better. You can always supplement.
So quickly on forms, all we're asking for you to let us know about tonight is if you are not going to accept the assignment that you've been given for City Vista, please let us know by midnight. If you're fine with it, you don't have to email ResLife. There are a couple of other forms available to you that don't have a deadline tonight. One is, for example, if you're an off-campus learner and you have a technology need, you can use the form that was provided in the email that Dr. Anderson sent, and it's also on the COVID-19 website, to request support for technology needs. You know, a MiFi, a laptop, depending on what your situation is. It goes through an approval process, but if you don't have all the tools you need to be successful learning, we have a process for you to apply for that. The other things we provided, the risk acknowledgement form, the health pledge, those are all gonna get packaged up and sent to you again to address those. And for off-campus learners who are coming onto campus, we're gonna send you some communication and a form to use to send us your address, your contact information, and for you to declare, I live off campus at this address, but I will be learning on campus at least intermittently. I'm holding up my hand to let you know that, so that we can then schedule you for testing and get you all the appropriate information you need as the semester progresses, knowing that you are in that cohort, if you will. There's been some athletes asking questions about access to practice fields and will we practice, will we condition? Check with your individual coach. It's all coming down to what the NCAA or the conferences are saying about eligibility for this year. And so there may not be practices, but you very well may be allowed to condition with the trainers. But those will also be altered, right? Athletics has put together a really great, safe plan for making sure that athletes do this in a really physically distanced and safe manner.
And the Department of Athletics is coming out with a Q&A, right, test that will be on the website pretty soon.
They are. It'll be in 2 places on the website. It will be on their athletics website, on the trinity.edu, and then it's also going to be under the athletics section on the COVID-19 website. So there's a Q&A from athletics on that.
Tess, somebody asked if we can guarantee that everybody on campus will be wearing masks, and we can't, right? We will do everything we can to make sure that they do, and it will be a group effort, but it's got to be a community effort. And so, yeah, we will do.
There's almost nothing we can guarantee you in this situation, right? Except to say that we're going to work hard at the health education and the kind of the public health. We have healthcare administration students involved with this. We have professionals from across the university. We've engaged public health professionals from outside the university, and we're going to do everything we can to educate you to make good choices. We're all in this together. We're not blaming you for anything. We're as responsible as you are to mirroring the kind of behavior that is expected in this new social contract that we're building. I do want to say this really quickly. That all being said, I know you all are really excited to come back and to see each other. And, you know, we see things on social media. We get things passed on to us. If you have a friend or you know someone who's planning a party, an all-night gaming session where you're piling into a room together, you know, just rethink it, right? Someone asked the question, if we hit our indicators at the mass testing right up front, will we have to close campus? Well, I certainly hope not. We're going to ask you to make some good decisions before you arrive to help mitigate that potential. But yeah, you know, there's stories about athletics programs that brought, 60 athletes back and told everybody to quarantine until things started. And they got together in a room overnight and had a gaming session, and over half the team was not practicing after that. So that's how fast it spreads. And it's, we're not putting that on you. We're just saying we all have to make those decisions. I'm going to have to make those decisions to protect you. I'm going to make those choices at home with my family to protect you if I'm coming onto campus. And so we're just kind of in it together. We will do our best, though, to accommodate the fact that there's a little Swiss cheese here, right? Things are going to slip through. That's where we're working hard to build the capacity and the capabilities to test, to trace, and to treat. All we're asking is that you make as many good choices and adjustments in your behavior as possible to stay within those capabilities. We're all going to have to work on it together. We're not silly enough to think that there's not going to be a slip up occasionally, but we're going to work hard on it together. And the last thing I'll say is the indicators that you read on the website of what we're looking at for closure, it's not a one and done thing. It's all contextual, and it may take most of them. We're looking at trends. But what we'll do as we get going is we will have a transparent dashboard on the website, just like your local public health department does, to help you see how we're trending on campus to numbers of cases, positivity rate, doubling rate, that sort of thing. So we're taking this very, very seriously and learning a lot. We're almost creating our own public health department to make all this happen. And we'll work hard on it together to keep us here to the extent that we can, but we can, things happen. The virus is very predictable. That part is not uncertain. What's uncertain is the choices we'll make and the gaps that might result and how we manage it. That's not always predictable. So we're gonna get through this together. If you guys have any questions that we didn't hit tonight, feel free to email the Nerve Center at trinity.edu or any of our panelists that you think are the relevant experts for your question, and we'll keep moving through it together. The big thing and the big action for today is if you have a housing assignment for City Vista that you do not intend to keep, then let us know by midnight, And to Eric and David's point, if you're waffling, just go ahead and accept it, and we'll find a way in some time up to a deadline that you could reverse that decision. But we'd rather you book your spot right now so we can make those plans. If you're working on a lease off campus, there have been lots of questions about whether we can still do that. Yes, you can. Again, though, spirit of full transparency. Know that you're a little on your own, right, when it comes to being, say, sick with COVID. And it is not impossible that off-campus students could be asked to become remote learners if conditions deteriorate. Again, in the spirit of full transparency, we want to share those things. So let us know if you have any other questions. Thank you so much to the experts from across Trinity. They gave up their evening to visit tonight. Anybody have anything that we missed, team, my colleagues, that you want to bring up? Or
no, just thank you, Tess, for doing such a great job on this and being a great facilitator and leader.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Last thing is you can let parents and friends know if they missed it tonight that this is recorded, and Courtney will have it under the community messages section of the website, correct? COVID-19, yeah. So the COVID-19 website under community message, we're putting all of our videos and recorded webinars there. So let us know if you need anything. Thank you so much for your partnership. We really, we have to talk about all of the risks and the processes and the procedures, but none of that masks the fact that we are genuinely excited to see you all. Whether it's virtually or in person, we've missed you. We've missed you since March 11th. And we are all so eager and excited. We don't, we like each other, but we don't come to work for each other. I mean, it's all about you guys, right? So we miss you and we can't wait to see you. And if you have any questions, let us know. Y'all have a great evening. All right. Thanks so much. See you guys. Thanks, guys.